Your relationship isn't falling apart because you have communication issues. After working with countless couples for over 20 years, I can tell you that almost every single one of them came to me convinced that communication was the problem. But not one of those relationships was actually breaking down because of bad I statements or the wrong tone of voice. Now, if you're watching this, you've probably been told something like, use I statements, be more vulnerable, calmly state your feelings, lead with compassion, or lower your voice so you sound like a freaking meditation app. And the kicker is you've done it. You've twisted yourself into a full-on communication origami pretzel and still end up fighting over dishes, socks, or whose turn it is to wrestle the kids into bed. And at that point, you're probably thinking, what is happening? A simple question like, can you take out the trash? Somehow triggered a nuclear countdown, and 10 seconds later, you're buried in emotional fallout. Am I right? Here's the truth. You don't have a communication problem. And I'm not here to bash the pros who say otherwise. I used to be one of them. But after 2 decades of walking with couples, I can tell you this. Communication tools only work after you address the real issue. And that's exactly what we're digging into today. And make sure you stay till the end of this video because I'm going to share with you a 1-sentence phrase that you or your partner can say the moment that you notice you're triggered in an argument to shift things in another direction. This sentence is going to allow you to pause, reset, and maintain that connection. So, what is the real issue if it's not communication? 2 words: emotional safety. When couples get stuck in a stable misery pit where you're not in crisis, but you're left feeling unfulfilled, unhappy, and unclear on how to move forward, it's rarely because of one big event. In those moments, your connection is experiencing what I call death by 1,000 emotional cuts. Tiny emotional nicks and scrapes over time. A sigh, an eye roll, being cut off, a passive-aggressive comment. Moments that slowly chip away at your sense of safety with your partner. And when that emotional safety starts to break down, parts of you begin to armor up. I call those protective parts of you your triggered travelers, the versions of you that pop up when your nervous system senses danger. Even if that danger is just a tone of voice, a sarcastic comment, or that look that you've seen too many times before. At first, it's certain topics that light up your trigger traveler. Over time, your partner's mere presence can make your trigger travelers brace for impact. To be clear, I'm not talking about domestic violence. That's a very real and serious situation that requires a different kind of support and safety planning. Right? I want to make that very clear. What I am talking about is the kind of emotional tension that builds up when you've had one too many arguments, brush-offs, eye rolls, or cold silences. Your body starts to expect the tension and the disconnection. And that's the real issue. Not your words, not your volume. It's the invisible tension underneath the words and the volume. The part of you that says, yep, here we go again. And I already know how this ends. So, what do you do about that? We start by getting to know our triggered travelers. Not to shut them down, but to work with them. And that is where the triggered traveler map comes in. It's a nervous system friendly tool that I use with my clients to help disarm your triggered travelers and reconnect in real time. Now, today I'm going to walk you through 5 simple steps that guide the trigger traveler map. Most fights aren't really about the fight. They're about the version of you that shows up when you don't feel emotionally safe. Let's get started. Step 1, notice the cut. Step 1 is to notice when something stings. A tone, a look, a silence. Literally say, ow. It's not about blame. It's about notifying yourself and your partner that your triggered traveler just got activated. Maybe it was their tone. Maybe it was a look. Maybe it was something from your past. This is your cue to pause, not to fix or figure out. Just pause and ask, what just cut me here? Now, it's important to say ow or something along those lines because it interrupts the usual pattern. It's called a pattern interrupt. Instead of feeling the ow and reacting, you say the ow and reflect on it. Notice the cut. Gives you a tiny window to shift the cycle before your trigger traveler leads your entire inner caravan off a cliff. If you don't do this, the tiny hurts pile up. But when you take time to notice the cut, you catch the wound early. You can name it, tend to it, and reconnect faster. It's like learning to apply an emotional neosporin instead of letting every paper cut get infected. Step 2, name the trigger traveler. This step can be fun. Give your trigger traveler a name. My fighter just walked in. Humpty Dumpty is wobbling on that wall again. Whatever works for you. As Dan Siegel says, you gotta name it to tame it. Naming helps you notice your trigger traveler and respond to it, as opposed to becoming your trigger traveler and reacting from it. My pleaser is panicking. My avoider wants to vanish. That's my defender building its case. Yeah, that's my trigger traveler. Naming your trigger traveler gives you space to lead it rather than letting it lead you. As Dr. Richard Schwartz says, we want to speak for our parts, not from them. It's the difference between saying, you always ignore me, and a part of me feels like I'm not being heard. One option opens a door while the other one blows the door off its hinges. So if you don't name your trigger traveler, communication becomes about survival, not connection, which is why we tend to think we have communication issues. See how that works? You don't have a communication issue, you have a protection issue. It's way easier to stay in connection mode when you're saying, hey, my defender is flaring up, instead of just erecting emotional walls. Step 3, narrow the threat. Now that you have named your trigger traveler, noticed the cut, get curious. What exactly woke up your triggered traveler? Become a detective. Narrow it down. Was it what my partner said? How they said it? A pattern that felt familiar? A flashback from your past? A nonverbal movement? When we're stuck in stable misery, it's easy to slide into always never spiral. He always does that. She never listens. This always happens, and it always will. But usually, it's not everything about your partner that sets you off. It's a moment, a micro moment that triggers your traveler and wakes it up. Okay? So when you narrow the threat down to a key micro moment or two, you stop assuming the whole relationship is broken. You start seeing what's actually triggering you. If you don't take time to do this, those micro moments, they'll continue to build up and you'll stay stuck in blame, either blaming your partner, yourself, or your compatibility. And when you realize what's going on, it's easier to move from that overwhelming always never land to, okay, we can work through this. Step 4, narrate the story. Every triggered traveler has a survival story, a meaning about what's happening, usually based on past pain. Let your traveler speak without handing them the reins to your entire inner caravan. Ask questions like, what story is my traveler telling me about this moment? Maybe it's, they don't respect me. I'm failing again. If I say something, they'll leave or blow up. These stories may not be entirely true, but they feel true to that part of you, that triggered traveler that's woken up and activated. Now, I did an entire video on stories and how to deal with them. Click this link if you want to check that out. It's important to understand what that story is and how to deal with it. Narrating your triggered traveler's story is a key step that you must take before any of those communication tools you've learned have even a slight chance of working. Because when your nervous system is stuck in a story, you can't I statement your way out of it. Everything gets distorted. Intentions, tone, even facts. In short, you'll react to a story in your head. They left the dishes in the sink because they don't care about my feelings, instead of responding to the partner in front of you. But when you do get clear on that story, that clarity helps you stay grounded, connected, and speak with your traveler, not from your traveler. Step 5, nurture the need. Now that you have identified the cut, your traveler, understand what activated it, heard the story and what it's telling you, now ask, what would help my traveler feel safer, softer, more supported right now? Or what might my partner need to feel the same? This step is where reconnection becomes possible. Not through fixing, but through finding what needs attention. When you acknowledge your own needs and your partner's, you limit the chance things will end in an emotional paper cut power struggle. If you don't nurture your needs, your triggered traveler will keep trying to meet that need in an efficient, but likely very unhelpful way. Like sarcasm, passive aggression, yelling, apologizing just to shut things down. That one gets me. I can't stand that one. I said I'm sorry. What? Does that mean I can't feel? Okay, sorry. Whew, bring it down. These coping strategies, they're fast, but not really that effective because they cut deep and create more distance. When you nurture your needs, you stop reacting from your triggered traveler and you start turning towards and responding to your triggered traveler, right? And when you do that, your entire system becomes more available for empathy, curiosity, connection. I promise to share with you a bonus phrase that can help you rein in your triggered traveler. I call this the triggered traveler trumpet. Okay? When things start to escalate, your traveler's probably trying to take the reins, probably trying to wrestle them out of your hands and lead the situation. But this one sentence is like a trumpet that alerts you and your partner that a triggered traveler is awake and ready to protect. You can say, my triggered traveler is waking up. Give me a minute while I hit the snooze button before it takes over. Or my traveler's feeling triggered. I want to pause before it takes the lead. Make up your own statement. It's honest, simple. It doesn't require perfect wording. It just opens the door to connection. This sentence lets your partner know something is stirring inside of me, and I care about how we move through this. I want to stay connected, even if I need a second to catch my breath. But here's the key, that you must let your partner know when you're coming back. Okay, don't weaponize this, guys. Please don't do that. You're like, oh, my triggered traveler is waking up, and then you leave for 3 days. Don't do that. Let them know when you're coming back, when you can finish the conversation. You may be asking Dr. L, if communication strategies aren't enough, how do I create emotional safety? Well, I'm so glad you asked, dear watcher. That's what we're walking through in the next video. Without emotional safety, even the best communication tools won't work. Click this video and watch. Until next time.